Well, good morning and welcome to day one of CISO Forum Canada 2021. As the chair mentioned in the opening comments, it's the third iteration of this conference, and I'm truly fascinated by the journey that we've gone on. And to be here for the third iteration of this conference in this hybrid environment is truly a testament to the success that this conference has seen over a period of time. My name is Ali Hirji, and many of you may know me as the lead for both AI and cybersecurity at Durham College. And in today's session, I'm going to be diving deep into the impacts of quantum in the world of ransomware and cybersecurity in general. You know, often when I was in high school, I remember being told that physics, computers, are the operating systems of the universe. And if you really want to see what's changing in this operating system, a peek into quantum is probably a good starting point for you. Robert, or Bob, as we used to call you, Bob, good to have you at the third iteration of CISO Forum Canada. Tell our audience a little bit about what you do and why is this subject of importance to you? Your 60 seconds begins now.
Hi, Ali, and thank you. Wish we were being able to join you on stage. Bob Gordon, I'm the strategic advisor of the Canadian Cyber Threat Exchange, or CCTX for short. My passion is the CCTX. I mean, it's just great being able to work with companies all across this country to figure out how do we raise the cyber hygiene, the cyber resilience for companies of all sizes. And that's what the CCTX does. We get companies together to share best practices, ideas, to share information about what they're seeing about the cyber threat that's coming after them. And it's actually really encouraging to see companies coming together, working collaboratively. It's that spirit in Canada where we can actually we do get together to work collaboratively on things. And something that's as important as cybersecurity is something where we've got to be working together. Andrew talked about what the threat is, and it plays out every single day across this country, and companies are coming together to try to help and basically raise the cyber resilience across the country.
Absolutely, Bob. Well said. And, you know, go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we go together. And CCTX has certainly been a champion of that. Bob, it's always a pleasure to have you. And Rob, you're going to be on the hot seat because a question that's come in, and I'll weave it into our initial plan. And this has to do with how are you seeing government agencies in the public sector responding to this new age of attacks? And as we had discussed, recently we saw the TTC take a pretty significant hit. From your perspective, how is the public sector preparing for this new wave of computing quantum-driven attacks? Robert?
Thank you very much. I think what I'll do is condense my comments down quite a bit. I think the government's doing a fair bit. As Seth mentioned, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, a very good initiative by the government, bringing the government providing a focal point for all their technical advice and the threat information that they're bringing together. They changed the legislation for the new Cyber Center when they created it, so it now brings together all the cryptologic capability, the foreign intelligence collection capability of the government into one place. And they're now producing a variety of reports, alerts, assessments. As Seth mentioned, the one, for example, on the healthcare, we're starting to see that coming out. And more importantly, they're starting to produce it not just for the big industries, but also for small, medium-sized business. They've also got the legal authority to conduct what they call defensive cyber operations, where they actually have the authority to go out and disrupt the capabilities of foreign threats that are being done or taken online. Really good initiative. Obviously, we don't hear about that, but I'm assuming that behind the scenes, they're doing that. They're being creative in some of the engagement that they're doing with the private sector. They're releasing malware detection and analysis tool, for example, that they developed. They're producing that out. They also did an interesting thing with the Canadian Internet Registry Authority. They produced what's called Canadian Shield. And basically, that's a free protected DNS service that helps prevent connecting to malicious websites. And they're doing it with the threat intelligence from the Cyber Center, and they're embedding that into it. So it's a great way for the government to be passing along that information directly out to the private sector. We're seeing the Innovation, Science, Economic Development Canada, their Cyber Secure Canada program. That's a certification program for small and medium-sized businesses. So that's on the prevention side. But I think the other thing that's important is to go after the attacker. And I think the establishment of the National Cybercrime Coordination Unit, that's a group being set up by the RCMP to provide as a national service to all police departments so they can get much better in coordinating those police operations going after the attacker. And I think that's what we've got to be doing. We've got to be doing lots more of that. I mean, there's more to be said about what the government's doing nationally. But with ransomware and those kinds of attacks, we've got to be looking at this at more of a global scale. We've got to be going after and stop the motivation for the attacker. And in ransomware, we've got to be stopping the money flow. So we're really encouraging some of the things going on in the United States. For example, they held the big summit a couple of weeks ago, brought 30 countries together to sit down and try to go after the attackers abroad. So how do we make it harder for them to use cryptocurrency? Because if you start to get rid of that motivation, it starts to cut out from underneath them the ability, the interest of the criminal. Really encouraging. Last week, U.S. State Department talked about offering up a reward of $10 million to lead to the people who are responsible for, in this case, dark side, the people who were after the colonial pipelines. So I think there's lots of things that are going on, both domestically, but this has got to be done. We talk about collaboration in a Canadian sense. This has got to be done collaboratively at an international level. We've got to become a little more creative in some of the things we're doing. U.S. has done a couple of good things. Australia last week introduced a ransomware action plan. So this is a specific thing going after the ransomware. And one of the things that there are two noteworthy things there, and I'll stop with that, is one, they're looking at making mandatory ransomware incident reporting mandatory. You've got to tell the government so they can do that planning and bring resources to bear on it. They've also created a standalone offense for all forms of cyber extortion. So making it much easier for law enforcement to go after and take action against these attackers coming in. And I think I'll leave it at that point. Let the others get in.
No, thank you so much for that, Robert. And I think, with the other question that came in as well is that, you've pointed to various resources that are available. But I think what's also important is, and to the audience member that asked that directly to me, is keep in mind, yes, this area of quantum encryption, etc., may be a relatively new area, but with work that's going on at UFT, for example, some of the work that my team at DC is doing in collaboration with IronCAP as well, there are educational resources that are available. It's important to know what you do not know, and I've seen many CISOs now take us up on opportunities to have workshops, so on and so forth. And I know I'm speaking to Asif this Friday as well to talk about how we can bring and channel some of those items. So Robert, as always, thank you for bringing the public sector perspective. Much appreciated.